The beginning of my journey into the horror genre started when I was as young as 3 years old when I watched the 13 Ghosts remake for the very first time. It was around this point where I started to get interested in some older horror movies from my parents' time, and I started to watch a lot of children's friendly horror media like Goosebumps and Courage the Cowardly Dog, The Haunting Hour, stuff like that. But by the time I got to be 9 years old, I moved on to Stephen King and wanting to watch a lot more slasher horror films. It was around this time that I got to see the Nightmare on Elm Street remake at the movie theater. It was the first horror movie I ever got to see at the theater, so I have a lot of nostalgia for that movie. The Nightmare on Elm Street remake actually sparked a big chain of events where I would find a remake to a popular horror franchise, watch that, and then I would go back and watch all the other movies in the franchise that came before it. I did this with Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, etc. Finally, during one of these watches when I was around 10 years old, I saw a trailer for one of the Saw movies, and I had never heard of the Saw movies before this. I asked my parents if I could try watching that one as well since I was 10 years old now, and I was told no. It was the only horror franchise that I was not allowed to watch at all. This wasn't really common in my household. It wasn't very normal to be told that I wasn't allowed to watch a horror movie. They were pretty loose with what I could watch, so this immediately piqued my interest. I needed to find a way to watch it. I got a hold of all 7 of the movies at the time, and I binge watched them all, and I fell in love with them instantly. Early on in my horror journey with 13 Ghosts, I immediately became fascinated with practical effects, and Saw movies only had practical effects, and I enjoyed this a lot. I also thought it was really interesting that the main character was a man, and he just didn't have any supernatural elements to him whatsoever. His philosophy was very interesting. I thought these movies were very unique and very cool. The main things that I think drew me into the Saw franchise so deeply was the extensive lore, the creativity of the traps, the fact that a lot of the traps can happen in real life and they have actual engineers like help design these things. It was just all super cool to me. Since I was the friend that always had the horror movies on DVD, whenever we had sleepovers, I was the one in charge of supplying the media we'd be watching. So of course, I immediately show all of my friends the Saw movies. Some of them took to it and they enjoyed the movies, but I don't think any of them enjoyed them quite the way that I did. My friends not being super duper interested in the movies led me to go online to try to find other people to talk about these movies with. Again, I'm around 10 or 11 years old at this point. I was not allowed to have social media whatsoever as a kid. The rule was I couldn't have social media until I graduated high school. So Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, all those things, a big no-no. But what I did, I made a secret Instagram account and I named it Jiggysawgirl. And on this Instagram account, I would role play as John Kramer. I would post fan art, fan fictions, and just interact with other people in the Saw community. It was super amazing for me to finally be able to communicate with other people who really liked these movies too in the way that I did, where I cared about the characters, I cared about the lore, and I thought the traps were pretty cool too, because I didn't really have anybody to talk about that with in real life. I was involved in this little Saw online fandom community for about a year until my parents found out that I had the account and they abruptly made me delete it. And I didn't get to save any of those contacts. We all talked through Instagram primarily. So all those friendships, all those connections were just gone in the blink of an eye, unfortunately. This experience did bum me out a lot because I didn't really get to keep those connections with any of the friends that I made, so I didn't really try to get into fandom spaces or go online in any way until after I graduated high school. Then we get to 2020 and the pandemic hits. I'm midway through college at this point. I get sent home and I don't have much to do, much like other people around this time period. So what did I do? I just started rewatching the Saw movies, which is something that I do all of the time. This was also around the time that I downloaded TikTok, as a lot of people were early days of the pandemic, and I wasn't really posting content at this point, but I was watching what other people were doing. I did have a desire to want to put stuff out there, but I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do yet. I am really into cosplay. I don't really share that a lot on my main TikTok account, but I do cosplay a lot of characters, and not just horror. So in the middle of the summer of 2020, I started posting cosplay content and I was really churning out those videos. I was doing like 2 or 3 a day and I kept this up for about 3 months. But to be honest, I wasn't really having a lot of fun with it. I was more stressed out about it than anything, just trying to make sure I did all my videos and I was keeping up with the trends. I wasn't really having fun. Fast forward to September of 2020, I was doing a virtual rewatch of the Saw movies with one of my friends who had never seen them and he ended up loving them. And in the middle of this rewatch, I just had this thought. I was like, what if I just made a TikTok account, like a creative outlet where I just talked about the Saw movies, and maybe I could find more people to talk about these movies with again. Because back in the day, in 2011, I really enjoyed being in that small corner of the Saw internet. I have no idea how big the Saw fandom was online at that point, but just in the Instagram sphere that I was in, it felt pretty small. It felt like there was maybe like 30 or 50 of us in the area that I was in. My thought process, and I still have these Snapchat memories saved on my phone, I sent videos to my friends where I was like, do you think this is a silly idea? Like, I just want to talk about the Saw movies, maybe some other horror movies on occasion, but I just want to talk about the lore and the characters and how much I like them, and like maybe I can find other people who like them too, and like, you know, maybe I can make like 30 or 50 online friends again, because that would be really cool. I missed that. And I remember thinking when I was making the account that I wanted to also try to show these movies to some new people if possible, and like, hey, maybe some other people will grow to like the Saw franchise the same way that I did, and maybe people would see all of the value and the love and the effort that goes into making these wonderful movies. And again, I didn't think a lot of people were going to see this. I thought maybe I'd find a community of like 30 to 50 people, the same way that I did back in 2011. So just for giggles on my end, I named my account Jiggysawgirl as like a joke with my former self. My account basically took off instantaneously, which is not something that I would have ever expected. I was truly blown away by it. I initially started by doing a couple of Amanda Young cosplay videos, which I was putting that cosplay together way before I even started TikTok, and it's funny that it was finished right when I decided to make this page. So I started uploading Amanda cosplay videos and funny trending audios, but then I mixed in some videos of me talking about various Saw traps and various pieces of the Saw lore. I hit 100,000 followers in about 4 months, and within that 4-month time period, the official Lionsgate account on TikTok followed me back, and that was super cool because at the time they only followed like 6 other people. It was around this time that Spiral from the Book of Saw was starting to come out because they had to push the initial release date back because of COVID, and they actually sent me PR boxes and free tickets to go see the movie. I was on cloud 9. I was so happy. I didn't think it could ever get any cooler than that. And for the next few years, I would post content consistently about 5 days a week on TikTok. On October 27th of 2022, I got a DM from Lionsgate asking if they could call me. Now, this was pretty unusual. I had never spoken to them on the phone before, so I knew that this was going to be something interesting. I remember walking outside of my office. I had 20 minutes left of the workday, and I took the phone call, and they said, "Hey, Bailey, we're going to keep this really short. Do you want to be in Saw X?" I immediately started crying, and I was trying to make it sound like I wasn't crying on the phone, but I said, "Yes, of course. When? What do you need from me? Like, what can I do? You know, what's going on?" They told me it was going to be a small part, that I would have a line, and that I would need to be going to Mexico City within the next month, basically. Less than 2 weeks later, I was on a plane going to Mexico City to go film my cameo, and I had the time of my life in Mexico City. I got to work with so many amazing people, the producers, the director, Tobin Bell, Michael Beach, so many amazing people at Lionsgate. I just had such a wonderful, positive experience the whole time on that set. I remember being introduced to Tobin and the director, and I was just so nervous about it, but everybody was so cool and so nice and so chill about everything. They really made me feel super welcome while I was there. I even had my own trailer for the day, which was really fun. Mark Berg actually lent me his trailer. I just so vividly remember sitting there on that set, just being so overwhelmed with gratitude and love for like everything that was happening. I remember sitting there during one of the takes where the camera wasn't going to be focused on me. I was actually behind the camera, and the tears were just silently falling. I was like, what did I do? How did I get here? I didn't feel like I belonged there at all, but I was so happy. And I remember there being a point where Mark Berg was introducing me to people. He's one of the producers, and him just telling people like, "Hey, this is Bailey. She does work on TikTok. She only talks about Saw, and we are super grateful to have her here. You know, she's a part of the Saw family now." And I just remember just being like, whoa, this is actually happening. Like, I had people in my personal life tell me that what I was doing online was really cool, but I don't think it ever really hit me how much of an impact it was until that exact moment, until I was standing there on the set and all of these people are talking to me like I deserve to be there. And anyways, back to being on the set while we were filming. I remember just sitting there during one of the takes behind the camera, the tears are silently falling, and I just felt so grateful to be there, to be sitting there on the set, having my scene and my line be there with Tobin Bell, Jigsaw himself, and being told by the producers and the directors that they were grateful to have me there and that I was a part of the Saw family now. It just felt like such a big full circle moment. It felt like this franchise that I had loved so deeply since I was a kid was loving me back in like the coolest way possible. And I honestly don't think there will ever be an experience in my life that will ever top how happy I was that day. That being said, with how happy I was during this time, it was so hard to keep this a secret. But I remember filming my announcement video and just sitting there on the floor being like, it's almost time. It's almost time. The day that I got to announce that I was in the movie, I was actually going to Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando, and it was the day after my birthday, and I was going to meet all of my friends that day that were there. I remember so vividly hitting the post button and just closing my phone, and I didn't want to look at it, and I just immediately started crying because I'm like, I could feel my phone going off a mile a minute, just buzzing and buzzing and buzzing, notification after notification. It was crazy. A few weeks later, I got to go to the Saw X press screening in Las Vegas, and I got to go to the Saw escape room, which was super awesome, by the way. I got to talk to the producers again, the director, everyone, and I had such a great time. I have cried so many happy tears throughout this entire process, and it has just been so amazing in full circle for me because all of this just started because I wanted to find that same sense of fandom and community that I wanted so badly as a kid. And now not only do I have that for myself, but I've realized over the past 3.5 years that I've created this space for other people who are young in fandom. Now, I'm not saying that I created the Saw fandom because I didn't. I'm not saying that at all. But I've noticed people are making friends in my comment sections. I get hundreds of comments a week from individual people saying that they started watching these movies because of me. They've made friends online because of me. And now they're in fan groups on like Instagram and Reels, and now they're in like Instagram group chats where they all make fan cams together and they all talk about the lore. They made their own Discord servers. People are also making their own cosplays and they tag me in all of these videos, and it just makes me so incredibly happy to see that. I am so incredibly grateful for all of you and for all of this. I never thought that I would be able to do these amazing things, and it is literally all because of you guys and your support. I truly will treasure this time and this community for the rest of my life. It means so much to me. And not only do I now have this cool community where we can talk about Saw and other horror franchises, but now I'm Saw canon forever and my favorite franchise of all time. I love you guys. I love Saw. I hope you guys enjoyed this first video. We're going to talk about a lot of things on here, not just Saw, but I figured Saw X was the best place to start. Hope you guys have a good day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.